The sun rose gently over the small town of Ayegun, the golden light spilling across zinc rooftops and narrow streets. Children's laughter echoed as they made their way to school, swinging lunchboxes and books. Parents shouted from verandas, reminding them not to forget their assignments or to return home quickly after lessons. It was an ordinary morning, but none of them knew that before the day ended, the town would never be the same. Chica was one of those children. At just 12 years old, she was known for her warmth and cheerfulness. She wasn't the richest or the smartest in her class, but she had something that made her special, a giving heart. If she had 10 sweets, she gave out 9. If she had a new biro, she'd let her friend use it before she did. That morning, she walked into the classroom with her bright smile, chatting with her best friend, Kemi. The school day began like any other. The sound of chalk scratching the board, the teacher's voice explaining arithmetic, the buzzing of restless children trying to sit still. But during break time, something unusual happened. A new girl in their class, Amaka, pulled out a tray of snacks, freshly baked meat pies wrapped neatly in brown paper. She smiled shyly and said, "My cousin gave me these to share." At first, no one paid attention. Sharing food wasn't uncommon. In fact, it was a way children often bonded. A few kids shook their heads politely, but Chica, with her generous heart, didn't want Amaka to feel ignored. "Thank you," she said warmly, taking one of the pies. Others followed her lead, and soon the classroom was filled with the smell of pastry. Chica took a bite. The pastry was soft, the filling savory. She laughed, teasing her friend Kemi, who was nibbling carefully at hers. But then, in a heartbeat, the laughter stopped. Chica froze, her eyes widening. The pie slipped from her hands and rolled onto the floor. Her throat tightened, as if invisible fingers were choking her. She gasped for air, her small hands clawing at her chest. Then she fell. The classroom erupted into chaos. Children screamed. Some ran outside, calling for the teacher. Kemi knelt beside her best friend, shaking her desperately. "Chica! Chica, wake up!" But Chica's lips had turned pale, her eyes rolling back. Teachers rushed in. One lifted her limp body, another shouted for water, another called her parents. Within minutes, Chica was being rushed to the town hospital, her school uniform stained with dust, her classmates crying in shock. At the hospital, the doctors worked quickly. Needles, oxygen masks, whispered medical terms no one understood. Chica's mother burst into the ward, wailing, clutching her wrapper as if it could hold her heart together. Her father stood frozen, trembling, whispering prayers under his breath. Outside, the corridor was crowded with people from the town. Children who had been in the same classroom sobbed into their mother's arms, terrified of what they had seen. The town buzzed with questions. What happened to Chica? What was in that snack? Who gave it to her? The story spread like wildfire, and soon the truth began to unfold.
Amaka, the quiet new girl, was pulled aside by teachers and questioned. Shaking, she admitted that the pies were not hers. They had been given to her by her cousin, a boy named Kunle. 16 years old, restless, always getting into trouble, he had told her simply to share it with your classmates without explanation. She didn't ask questions. She trusted him. But when Kunle was confronted, the truth came out. He had tampered with the food. Out of foolishness? Malice? No one knew for certain. Some said it was a prank gone wrong, others whispered darker suspicions. Whatever his intention, it had nearly killed an innocent child. The town exploded with anger. Parents stormed to Kunle's house, shouting, "Do you know what you've done? She could have died. What kind of child plays with lives?" His parents wept, unable to defend him. The community leaders stepped in, holding an emergency meeting at the town hall. The entire school closed early that day. Everyone wanted answers. Meanwhile, Chica lay unconscious in the hospital bed, machines beeping, her small frame fighting for life. Her mother refused to leave her side, holding her hand, whispering, "You will not leave me, my child. You will not." Her father paced the floor, helpless tears streaming down his face. Hours passed. Finally, the doctors emerged. Chica had survived the worst. Her body was weak, but she was breathing steadily again. Relief swept through the town like a flood. Parents hugged their children tighter that night, grateful but shaken. Kunle's fate was decided by the elders. He was too young for prison, but too dangerous to be left without consequence. His family was disgraced, and he was sent away to live with relatives in another town under strict watch. The message was clear. This town would not tolerate carelessness with lives. When Chica eventually woke up, she was greeted with tears of joy. Her friends visited her with flowers, drawings, and apologies for not knowing how to help. But Chica herself had changed. She no longer reached for every hand that offered her something. She learned a painful but important truth. Not every gift is given in love. Weeks later, her parents gathered the children of the town in the schoolyard. They stood in front of them and spoke firmly. "My children, you must be careful. Not every snack, not every drink, not every gift is safe. Even when it comes from someone you know, you must think twice. A single careless bite can change your whole life. Remember Chica. Remember what happened here." The story of Chica spread beyond the small town. Teachers told it in classrooms, parents repeated it at home. And for years to come, whenever a child reached for food from a friend without asking where it came from, a quiet voice would say, "Be careful. Remember Chica." Because sometimes the greatest danger doesn't look like danger at all. It looks like kindness. It looks like a smile. It looks like a gift.